G'day traders, welcome to wrap up of Monday the 23rd of July. So daily chart, here we are, hey, this red candle. And basically we did get a bit of a bounce on this particular day, but there's a lot of pre-market where it pushed down. And I'll bring up a 15-minute chart and it'll show a little bit better of the sort of the intermediate trend. But we found some support off this line here, even though the wicks got underneath there. The cash market really did hang around this sort of area here, but we'll break it down a bit further. But really expected this sort of level to hold. It did sort of get underneath it for a while and did head down, look like one head to this next support level. You can see there's also a trend line coming up through here that's really quite strong as well. So the wicks are getting through it, but still this area is holding. So expect for the future maybe that we're going to start heading up. But certainly this particular day, there was some pressure on the downside. Let me bring up a 15-minute chart to sort of show that middle trend. So here's the day we had here. So you can see we pushed down, but then we got a significant push up, and that bounce really started to come. But leading up to this, there's certainly some pressure on the downside. It came back from here's last Thursday back here. This is where we're trying to break high, basically make a new high for basically the next few months. We hadn't been this high since end of May. So it failed there, sort of really bounced off that top, started pushing down. Then leading up to Friday, we got underneath this area here, kind of come back, and then they couldn't get back up again, and this sort of bottom along here has held the market down. From there we've seen a real push down over say a day and a half to 2 days. The overall market sentiment was certainly on the downside leading up to Friday. There's a lot of information, a lot of sentiment there showing that market's coming down. We continue to push down in the pre-market of Monday, and then opening of Monday it really started pushing down, but where they found support, and now all of a sudden you'd say maybe these buyers are starting to get into a situation where they're gaining back control. And if you have a look at this trend line here, it's quite a steep trend line, but look at how the market's bouncing off it. You can see if we extend it through to this area here, like a support resistance line, the market can be held say underneath it, but then it goes pushes up through it, then it can bounce off it and act as support. Same as with the trend line. You continue it through and it'll hit it underneath and then come through, get above it, and then hit it from the backside and bounce off it. And that's exactly what we're doing here. Now all of a sudden, watch what we're doing this pre-market, but we've got sort of a little bit of the pressure is starting to change again. These medium-term markets are starting to say the buyers are coming back in after these sellers have had a bit of a go over the last say 1.5 to 2 days. So here's the chart here. Of course, there's that pre-market. We're pushing down. We start pushing down really quite strongly here. There's a bit of a mixed reaction. The Nasdaq was very strong on the downside. The Russell was interesting. It was kind of resisting these sellers. And the thing about the Russell, and we talked about in the trading room watching how all the other markets were going, yet the Russell stood its ground, and it's pushed down a little bit, but then it tried to really hold the sell-off. And when you see something like that, especially the Russell doing that, I mean the Nasdaq's a bit different. It can do a bit of its own thing, but when the Russell sort of holds its ground and looks like it wants to go higher, expect these markets a good chance from the start looking to go higher again, because the Russell is that sort of indicator. When you understand what makes up the Russell, it's a really good leading indicator like that. So we got this bit of a bottom reversal area here, which a 1 minute chart will show it a bit better, and then all of a sudden we started to go higher. A nice full 5 minute fade here where the trend and the momentum's definitely back on the upside. It came back, and this trade came within an area, a support area, and the stops could actually sit below the actual breakout line there. So from there it could actually go and make a bit higher. Came back, went a second time at these highs, thought this is possibly an area we could go through, wasn't quite ready, came back, and then basically the third time, lucky, it's managed to break through again and go higher. But all through this area, even we were slightly coming down, making lower lows here, it had that overall look at that it wanted to go higher, and that was because of a couple of things. Medium-term markets, 15-minute markets showing that certainly the pressure was changing and the buyers were gaining back some control, and other markets. By this stage, the Russell was always on the upside, but the Nasdaq and the Dow Jones, they were already starting to break the highs, and all the markets were acting, with confluence and going together and trying to push up to the upside here. So there was certainly some pressure, and just looked like it was eventually going to go. And from there we've drifted, a little bit of a slow patch in the afternoon, and again they broke higher, and then a bit of a sell-off in the afternoon. But overall, these buyers have really started to gain back control. So here it is on the 1 minute chart. On the downside here, it looked strong to start off with. Everyone started to push off and really start to sell. So as far as a selling opportunity very early. There was certainly some opportunity here. 13.38 was a bit of a level. You can see the market's bounced off it a few times the pre-market, so we got underneath that and all the other markets going with it. To see it come back and pop up and touch that sort of area, that'd be a good place to sell from. It didn't quite get there, but you can see there's certainly the selling pressure there, and it's one of those percentages trades where it's going to eventually hold in this sort of area and go lower. And you can kind of be confident in that because all the other marks are going that way. But then by this stage here, when we had this sort of second little bit of a push down, this is where the Russell really started to resist. So everyone had this initial push down, but this second push down, this is where the Russell resisted. And when the Russell resisted, we get this bit of a reversal pattern here. See how we failed to make lower lows, higher high, and all of a sudden we're getting this pressure. Look at this pivot here. So this is a bit of a top. All other markets are breaking this area here. The Dow Jones was actually the first one to break it. So then there's a lot of momentum here. All of a sudden everything changes from the downside to the upside, and sometimes it can be just a flick of a fingers, and it goes the opposite direction. I mean, it's not like it's a flick of fingers, I shouldn't say that. There was a lot building to this. Of course, this pattern here, it's a holding reversal pattern. We've got other markets holding and pushing higher. We've got the Russell resisting sellers and trying to push higher. So there's a lot of information there, a lot of information coming through that certainly the buyers are coming in and they're going to start coming strong. So from there they quickly jump back up to these highs. We pop back here, bounced and looked to go higher again. And you can see here it bounced a couple of times and nicely in between power points, and then eventually it's gone higher. We drifted sideways through this area here, and then again had another little push to the upside, and ended up finishing the day up a little bit. As far as the cash market goes, you can see on the daily chart it was still a red candle, but the cash market is what matters, is what we're looking at, and certainly the buyers in a red candle on the daily charts have gained control and certainly had a winning day as far as the cash market's concerned. So like I said, watch that 15-minute chart and look for some the continued pressure from the buyers, and maybe Tuesday we can see these markets go higher, but certainly reassess that situation once we've seen a little bit more pre-market. So that's a wrap up for Monday, and we'll speak to you guys on Tuesday.